Welcome to Conversations with Kelly, where we don't mind sharing our flaws as well as our hearts. Tonight, our conversation piece will be on boundaries, the importance of boundaries, why we have boundaries. And tonight on my panel, I have the lovely Kathy Palmer. I have Annette Jackson. And I have Donna Haynes. Excited to dig into this conversation tonight with these lovely women up here. So much knowledge. I've never been at a table with so much knowledge. It's going to be, we don't know what might transpire here tonight, right?
That's right.
So let's dig right on in. What is boundaries? What is your idea of what boundaries are?
I think you could, it depends on how you're using it in your life. Okay? You can have boundaries that are considered to be legal boundaries. You can have personal boundaries, ethical, an invisible line that you cross. I think it's a lot of different things.
Okay.
But you know within yourself where that line is.
Okay, so we can say that it's kind of like an imaginary line that is set where you don't cross. And also, can we say that we don't allow certain things or individuals to cross those lines?
Absolutely, I would say that the line dictates what can happen in our presence or what cannot happen in our presence, and that is dictated by our values. And so it's to protect us at the same time, but to also limit what will or will not be in our personal space.
I guess I agree that boundaries are lines that shouldn't be crossed or that we don't want to have crossed, but I wouldn't agree that we don't cross them because I do think that we do, and that's where some of our issues come from.
Is when we set these boundaries for ourselves, can they be broken or violated by other people? I mean, we can set them, but what can we put into place, or is there anything that we can put into place so those boundaries aren't broken? Are there times when that works and times that they don't work?
Absolutely. I believe what you have to have in place with your boundaries is, first of all, you need to know what you will and will not allow to happen. Secondly, if someone begins to violate a principle you've already had in place, that there needs to be a warning and then a consequence.
Okay.
If that, boundary is violated, and then a follow-through on that consequence. Like, I told you if you do this again, that I'm just going to have to, separate myself from you, because I just can't tolerate that. I can't walk like that. Or, whatever the principle is, some follow-through on it. And,
Okay, so we can clearly say that they define limits. What are some of the tell-alls that you lack boundaries?
when anything can happen in your presence and you don't say anything.
That's
Or
one
stop
of them.
it.
What about not being able to say no to anyone?
Yes.
Having trouble saying no, where you really don't want to. I know I've been in them situations where them baby showers and them parties and stuff, and you ain't seen them people in I don't know how long, and then you feel obligated because maybe one, they belong to your church and you're gonna see them again or see them at work, but you really don't want to go, but you say yeah anyway. So can we say that that's a tell-all?
It is.
You don't have any boundaries. Why do we do that?
I don't know, I had an issue with saying no. I had a quick lesson, and once I began to say no, I was truly liberated. But it was really difficult, especially when it came to family. But you want to please your family, you want to see them happy, and sometimes they're the hardest to say no to.
Well, and not just family, close relationships.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have friends that are closer to you than family, and it's really hard to try to say no to them. I'm not one who's ever had that problem of saying no. I think I've been blessed in that way. But it's all in how you say it too.
Yes.
I think a lot of times we say yes just because we want to be loved, we want to be liked, and our concept of being loved or liked, what we think is important, we don't allow ourselves to set the boundary. We allow anyone in just because we want that relationship. And we don't, it has to do with, how we view ourselves.
So it's I'm sorry.
I was going to say, once you recognize who you are in Christ, once you recognize who you are as a child of God, then you don't have to say yes to everything. You don't have to say yes to everyone. Then you can begin to say yes to Him, and then everything else kind of falls in place.
When you said that, what brought to my memory is we have these troubles with saying no to people, and we're always saying yes to, yeah, I'll do it, even on stuff that we don't really want to do. But then when it comes to things of God, we easily can say no about that. Oh, could you serve on this committee? No, thank you. But can you come to this party and you don't want to, especially when you know you broke and ain't got no money to buy the gift? Don't you hate that?
Yes.
But then you find yourself buy a gift. I'm getting upset right now thinking about it, because all them times, you know what, all them times I done bought gifts and I ain't had the money. I'm borrowing money to get a gift. Y'all feeling me?
Yeah.
Y'all feeling me? Oh, I feel a stirring in here. I'm
Yes.
free. I'm getting free right
Yes.
now. No. Oh, no. And then feeling guilty when you, Right now, today, we all three. You don't say no to them baby showers, especially if you ain't seen that person and you ain't real close. No to them weddings and all that kind of, because 9 times out of 10, what they want, a gift.
Yeah.
Today, we is taking a stand today. No more are we going to do them things we ain't trying to do. Right, Lisa?
That's right.
That's right.
Absolutely.
We're going to start saying no to Pepsi. Right, Lisa?
Lisa's working on that.
What about not speaking up? You know how we just kind of let people say things because we don't want to speak up? Is that because we don't want to lose friends? Or what about, I'm sure everybody should have a voice. Maybe my voice won't be as boisterous as the next person, but everybody should have a voice. What about that not speaking up?
I think everybody should have a voice, and I think everybody should use that voice, because that is a gift to us from our Father. We are supposed to do that. But I also think when you talk about boundaries, we need to learn when to use it, when it's our time to speak up, because it isn't always.
Okay, let me go here with it.
Okay.
What about this big O, and this ain't even part of my notes. What about this big O thing where we just got to keep it real? I just be keeping it real. I'll just be keeping it real. We should have boundaries with that, because I don't think we should fly off, like we said, there's times when we shouldn't fly off the mouth just because we just got to keep it real. And some things may be the truth,
That's right.
but it may not be for you to say it.
It may not be the truth for you to speak right now. I love that saying that Dr. King used to say. When I begin to speak, I think, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? And if it doesn't meet all three, then I stop. So it may be the truth. That may be the first. That's the first thing. Is it true? But then, is it necessary? Do you have to say it? And so do you have to be the one to say it? And then, is it kind? If we begin to judge what we say and line our boundaries up with what God wants for us and what is necessary and true and kind, we'd probably talk a whole lot less.
Well, we don't. We even forgot to address the issue. I'll be like, what was I thinking again?
And like she said, sometimes it's not for us to address. A word out of season is a hurtful word. Because I believe that given the thought, given the heart and the mind of God, there's a right way to address everything. Sometimes we just want to, get it handled and be on our way, because we don't like to deal with mess, or, if somebody, slams your name out there, you kind of want to handle that. But sometimes people are just of the mindset, I can say what I want because I'm grown, I can do what I want because I can, and that's not the case.
And then walk away and not looking back to see the destruction that you
have,
caused.
yes.
And the trail that you made just because you had to
Get it off.
Exactly.
I had such an ugly situation in my family because of something like that, where, one person said something and another person took offense at it, and even though it was offensive, instead of dealing with it in a necessary, kind, truthful way, it became a very, they let all the boundaries down. Kindness, sympathy, and it was all
They
out
just went
there.
all the way there.
They did, and it was very hurtful, and that has been almost a year now, and there's been a lot of pain trying to get back to that, so.
You know,
You
I
have to
think
be
another thing with boundaries is people feel that they have a sense of entitlement.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what this boundary is, if I think I'm allowed to do this, I'm allowed to say this. That's the same way with when you need to tell someone something. I personally believe that you can say anything that you want to say, it's all on how you say it. But when that sense of entitlement comes in, you forget all about that. You don't care about the person's feelings.
Right.
You don't care about respect for the person. It's just all about you at that time. And that's what the problem is with boundaries. It becomes about you. I want to do this. I need to do this. I'm going to do this.
What about when we ignore the wrong that has been done with us and we just downplay the situations?
I think it goes back to haunt you.
It comes back to haunt us. What about pretending that it's not happening? Is that again where we're still trying to, and that kind of goes into that people pleasing thing. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to lose friends and things like that. What is the purpose of having the boundaries?
Well, like Annette said earlier, sometimes it's for our safety, protection of ourselves, others. I think it depends on what the boundary is, whether it's a spiritual boundary, personal, whatever it is.
So it's for our protection, and oftentimes we don't look at it in that way. And also, it defines limits. It protects us, takes care of us. Should we be able to tell other people when they're acting in ways that are not acceptable to us?
I think so.
What thoughts?
I definitely think so, and I think it goes back to what Minister Haynes was saying. You can address things, you just need to address them in a certain way. And you need to be kind and loving and truthful, and you have to remember that when you're dealing with a situation, it's not just all about me. Because then you cross boundaries when you get that way.
Absolutely. And again, the thing with boundaries is it's going to have a twofold accountability. It's what you're going to allow, and either way, either coming in or being released. And so you have to have some guidelines of what you're going to allow, what you're not. And usually they're based upon our belief system. If I'm a firm believer that God is loving and I'm trying to walk this walk in a loving way that's treating people right and kind and loving, then I'm going to conduct myself that way. And then when there's actions that are opposite of what I believe, I don't have to accept that. And I can let you know that this is where I am on it. And if you want to act, contrary to that, then do your thing. But when you come here in this space, this is how it's got to go. No love lost, but this is the expectation over on this side.
And I like how you said you can actually share that their behavior is not acceptable to us. And oftentimes I don't think some of those things are established when the relationship is being built. Could that be a reason why people tend to just continue to, I would call walk over people, continue to cross these boundaries that should be set? And I think pretty much they should be set from the jump, from the rip. You shouldn't be 6 years in a relationship and then all of a sudden we're gonna set some boundaries today. Because dude or whoever are gonna look at you like,
Why now?
What's going on now?
Yes.
So we need to establish those things that are not acceptable off the top.
Absolutely.
At the dating period, not after the marriage takes place, but the dating period.
And not be ashamed to voice that. Sometimes we as women assume the man knows, just because they know us. But you have to be very clear what you will allow and what you will not allow. True. And maybe even have to say, tell me what you heard me say, to make sure that it is very clear.
I'm a ghost lawyer.
Let's go.
I know I'm very ghost lawyer.
Let's go.
I'm ready for the nightcap? We've already talked about sex.
Let's go.
Because what you said is establish them ahead of time. I think before you get married to that person, to the one that God has placed in your life, because men like sex,
That is true.
and you need to know what kind of, how much sex, how often, the quantity, and how much they will worry about it.
Yeah.
So those things need to be, don't you think those need to be
Yes,
talked about?
absolutely.
Because those are boundaries too. You might
Yes.
not be willing to have it 20 times a day. Not saying that I do, but I'm just saying you might not be willing to do that. But he might want to, or it might be reversed. So those, you think those are boundaries that need to be
Yes,
talked about?
that's exactly why that discussion needs to take place. You know, before you say I do. Before you say I
Do
do.
you think that those questions should come up in your vows? For better or for worse, for more sex or less sex?
No, probably
No
not.
sex? Okay.
Probably not in the vows, but I would definitely say in the counseling.
Because, well, wait, I'm gonna challenge you that. But if he's expecting a whole bunch of that, shouldn't he tell you at the altar? Because then you could be like,
You should know before the
all
altar.
counseling, that's being counseling.
And I believe in counseling, every area should be covered because we have boundaries really in every area of our lives. And I mean, even comes to, and I'll just use me for an example in my marriage. I mean, I like my toilet tissue this way. I mean, I don't like my toothpaste squeezed all the way down here and there's a clump up here, you know. But to have that conversation, we talked about that in premarital counseling. I'm like, okay, what do you do with your tube of toothpaste? I mean, because for me,
That's
we need to be
it.
getting,
Yeah.
you know, we need to be getting some things talked about.
You are so, that is so, wow, that's so right. Ding.
I think sometimes the reason that we don't set those boundaries
Because we lying.
because we
We're
aren't,
scared.
we're not sure where we are, or we're not willing to face where we are. You know, a lot of times you were talking about young ladies and dating and so forth. Sometimes we don't set those boundaries because we kind of want those boundaries crossed. We haven't put it in, we haven't really internalized what we want.
Wait a minute, Catherine. We want them to violate the boundary. Okay, go on,
Depending on what-
elaborate. My inquiry minds want to
You
know.
know what the boundary is? It's that whole thing where, if you remember years ago, the discussions about date rape and so forth. And it's, when does no mean no? You know, or
I should
Mr.
just
Clinton,
know.
when does sex mean sex, you know? So I think that there's a lot of, because of the way that people are raised sometimes, because of the things we watch on television, because of romance novels, and Minister Haynes and I were talking a little bit about soap operas, the things that you see, it sets unrealistic expectations, and young ladies want to be wooed at times, and it's like, oh no, and they want to be not forced, but have some of their inhibitions overcome, you know, those kinds of things. So
It sounds like
Yep, I
she's
need to know
saying that
what
everybody
freak no
wants a little bit of a
inhibition
bad boy.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
what
well,
it sounded like.
isn't that why the young ladies want the bad boys?
You gotta explain what inhibition is.
That you-
Break it all the way down. Make it plain.
All right, so that you want things, but you don't want to admit that you want things, and so therefore you want someone else to come in and get those things.
So you want a role play.
That's specific as
Oh, I'm innocent, I'm innocent. And then, oh, I want you to come in and do this. Oh, yeah.
Has anybody had that experience? I mean, you know,
No
that's-
comment. Leave the fence.
Okay. So I think that happens, and we have to, when you say, I'm gonna set boundaries with someone, you have to be serious about what those boundaries are, because you set one, and it's like, okay, well, here's the line in the sand, and then, you know, when you step back from that, and they cross over, it's like, okay, well, we'll make another line in the sand. Well, then I'll come across that one. No, you need to decide, you need to prayerfully decide what your boundaries are, and then hold to those, in all your relationships.
I agree. I agree and I disagree. But I believe that this is a discussion that you can have on the front side about what you want in terms of what's going to please you or excite you, how it's going to keep if we're talking about marriage, fresh, alive, vibrant, full of fire, because, you know, we want to keep that flame going. I mean, it's just not a man thing. Sometimes that's the flip. You know, sometimes the woman is the one that wants more and more and more, and then you have your spouse is just not, you know, giving it like you want it, but you, again, have to have that conversation on the front side. You know.
Got some friskies. Friskies.